Okay, what we need is float. 4MV 703 6200. Right there. The 4MV 703 6200. Idle mix screws 1.5. Okay. Throat revel. 6200. All the same. 9:30 seconds. Note 19. I have to find note number 19. Oh, it's just the picture. So, float gauge, 9:30 seconds.
But before we get started,
I need some grease.
by golly, I'm thinking so. I'm thinking so. Must be getting on supper time. Now you can either fiddle around trying to hold that down and push this, which you can see that's way off. And you can put a large weighted object on there like that, which blocks the light from the camera's view, but that's just too bad. So we need 9:30 seconds off the toe of the float. Let's find out what our current measurement is. We can't do it with that. I thought I could do it with that, but I can't do it with that. Current measurement is 1/32 of an inch. That will never do. I need 8/32 of an inch. Theoretically, if I hold this still and I measure 8/32 as I bend it, I'll be right on. The chances are that's not going to happen. Of course I dropped the needle valve. I don't know why I keep putting my Leatherman away. By Jove. We're like 8.5. I've got 9 to the top of the ruler, but it's supposed to be to the casting, which is the bottom of the ruler. Man, it's just driving me crazy. No! Yes. It depends on how hard you push on that needle. I'm going to say that's it. I show you. And that's so close. And I am going to leave it at that. I've spent so much time on this thing, I've almost forgotten how they go together. Now, I have never seen a worn or distorted check ball in my life, but new ones come in a kit, so we'll put it in, except for my magnetized Leatherman won't allow it. So now that we want the magnetism, is it enough? Well, it is. Click. Accelerator pump spring. Okay, remanufacturing of the accelerator pump. I'm trying to do it over a carburetor in front of a camera. It just ain't gonna work. And I'm not gonna move the camera. So you're just gonna have to believe me when I tell you I stuck that screwdriver through there, pulled the spring down, and slid the retainer out. Like that. And then put it all back together on the other one. Which is easier to do because you can get your fingers on top of the spring. to get the retainer past there. It's hard, you can't get your fingers on top of the spring with a retainer on it. That goes in there. Well, what I like to do is I like to put a bit of the geeb on there. It's not necessary. You don't have to do it. And the reason I do it, I don't know if you ever get any leather accelerator pumps anymore, but back in the leathering days, first couple of times that it grabbed the lip on it and peeled it back, I started putting a little thin film of bearing grease in the wells and on the plunger, and I never had that problem again. So now I does it every time. Those in place. Oops. Metering rods. I like these retainers better than the new ones. New ones? I like these retainers better than the new retainers. It's a little bit different process. Aim your metering rods into the jets. I can't see. I oftentimes just did these by feel. Takes a little longer, but gets them in there. Whoops. Push all the way down till the retainer has gone as far down as it can go. Some of these will allow you to do this, others will not. Some of them you must have this in place before you can put those in. And it's a real pain. That prevents the fuel from splashing up into the top of the air horn. Gasquet. And yes, it is done this way. You must open that portion of the gasket and slide it in around the metering rods. Is this the way it goes on? It is not. Didn't even look. Let's do that again, shall we? There. Oh, better. I like this one. It's got the big cutout. It fits the plunger through instead of just the little hole for that. Ready to top things off. Or top on, as it were. What am I forgetting? What am I missing? Whatever it is, I'm sure I'll find it here in a second. Yeah, exactly what I didn't want to happen. It's stuck. The magnetism of the Leatherman is insufficient. Okay, I'll just start the rest of my screws. Starting all of them before tightening any. Still doesn't want to come out. It wedged itself in there. There is a specific sequence that I'm probably not following. Click, 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 and
Click. Okay, book said turn and a half on the auto mixture screws. So in 1/2, in 1/2. Now, accelerator pump. So the pivot pin is here, and I had knocked it out, pulled the linkage off, but I had not removed the air cleaner gasket from the top of the carburetor, so I had to push it back to get the gasket off without destroying it. Oh, well, I don't even have to go there yet. Let's put the secondary metering rods in. Where are you? Click. Whoop. Accelerator pump linkage. Line up your pivot hole. Get your little pry tool in there. And get to prying. Go to your bigger pry tool. And you're done. Oh, I forgot to talk about that spring. Okay, so the spring that was on there, on the accelerator pump, there's a spring underneath here to push it back up. But you see how this moves. So when you mash down on the throttle, you can't hydraulically force all that fluid out there if this moves as one. So you mash down on the throttle, and then the spring pushes the plunger down at the rate at which the orifice will allow the gasoline to flow through. There's your accelerator pump lesson for the day. And don't forget your crip. Choke time. This is the part that people hate about quadrajets. Because you have this going down there on the linkage. It goes down in here nicely. Connects into the choke linkage nicely. But the problem is when you go to put this assembly together. Oh, that's when the games begin. Because this has to line up with the double D on that. And the only way that happens is if you hold the carburetor in such a manner as to keep that little thing right there. Like that. Elsewise, you ain't getting it together. I think it's so groovy now that we're finally getting together. Except, before we do that, I have to replace this. These are for transmission snap rings on the clutch packs and such, which I don't do. My automatic transmission rebuilding days were limited. These are pretty stout. And I saw no reason to get rid of them. I looked on eBay. One of these, $73. $73 or $74. And I just have to think, because it's for a 66 396, right? Who's buying those? I mean, come on. Oh. Uh-oh. Which way did that come out? Which way does the little sucky thing go? It's got to go toward the carburetor, which is going to be over here. So if you look around for a while, you find the same part. But it's not for a 66 396. But it's the same part. For $13 and free shipping. Okay, 13 and change, so $14 in free shipping. I'm gonna have to open that top one. $73, come on. If I ever see one on a car somewhere else, I'll just point at it and say, you didn't really pay $73 for that, did you? So when I got it at my local parts store, it was $15. I'm happy with $15. Well, these days I'm happy with $15. I was happier with $5 back in the old days. I think I would like to squeeze down upon that without an interfering arc. In other words, I want to squeeze it straight in. My $1 channel lock brand channel locks. Is it all the way in? No, it's not. One more groove. Like it. Since I have these here, might as well put the squeeze play on it. Like it? I guess I didn't pay enough attention to that. Oh, trying to exit on me, huh? Well, you know what? I should have cleaned that all up before I put that back together. Duh. Oh. C'est la vie. Okay, wrong way. Yes, it goes that way. What throws you off is the part number is upside down in the right side up position. Gosh, now I've got them both going at the same time. Alright, so linkage comes in from the backside. Okay, you can get lost in this linkage. So center that up as best you can. You have one of these pieces. This is your secondary lockout. Anytime the choke is on, to any degree of on, this linkage will be in the way of allowing the secondaries to open. The high idle cam. I've got the throttle linkage held in the vise. So your pivot's going to be there. The way the linkage is hooked up, this will drop down on those steps, thus changing the idle speed for these several choke positions. And that's going to go on here. So the big heavy head on the thing always goes to the top and forward. Well, it's at the top when the choke is on. So you're looking at your double D's there on this. Line them up with your double D's down there. It'll pretty much line itself up. If I move the choke plate, now I know everything is connected. So if the choke is on, why is that not going where it's supposed to? Why do this to me? Okay, it is doing it. Because that's the off position. Thing I forgot to do was put my linkage in before I did this. So away with you. Get your linkage in position. Try to do it slowly and carefully so you can follow along. Okay. Click. So when the gravity of this overcomes the gravity of that, it will move it out of the way. What next? Hot idle compensator. What is a hot idle compensator, you might ask? Well, this is a hot idle compensator. It has a bimetal strip. When it gets hot, it opens up this port. It is essentially a controlled vacuum leak. Click. Und click. I also have a new one of these and a new one of these because we don't know which one it is. Let's go look. Here at the House of Bad Lighting, we always do our best to drive the camera and the audience crazy. What have we here?
have the screw in the end, not the center. That one's in the center, that one's in the end. This is our chosen one. Now before we go mounting this thing up, let's go to the book and find out what our choke settings are supposed to be for the unloader. So if we pull back on the diaphragm, that's how much unloading we get. And obviously the secondary air valve can't open until the vacuum drops off and lets it open. Someone has commented about the air valve spring located over here. I think the first air valve adjustment I did was probably 1979, 1980, somewhere around in there, on my brother-in-law's 69 Impala convertible. Worked a treat. Okay, let's check specs. So the 4MV, our carburetor number is 703-6200. Set our idle mix screws, we did the float level. Vacuum brake, 160 thousandths, illustration number 23, figure 23. With choke spring pickup located in center notch, auto trans, or top notch, manual trans, hold choke valve toward closed position with a rubber band on vacuum brake lever. Hold vacuum brake diaphragm stem against its seat so vacuum link is at the end of the slot. If the dimension between the lower edge of the choke valve and the air horn is not as specified, bend vacuum link to adjust. So that's a different choke setup than what we got. But what it did give us is the specification for this measurement right here where the choke opens. Let's do that. Well, when I dig into my collection of, I ain't broke it yet, drill bits, this one is 154 thousandths. I'm saying that's real close to 160. So if we pull the choke all the way in, or the unloader, pull the unloader all the way in, I'd say that's open way too far. Way too far. Yeah, it's got a long way to go, but you adjust it by bending this tab here. You know, if I stuck a vacuum pump on there, that would hold it open too. Wonder why they didn't mention that. Well, you know, it's actually really close. You can't see it. Okay, so it's not that close. So this bit is 170. Oh, there's lots of room. Lots of room. So when that does that, hits this rod, so I want to bend my rod in that direction. You gotta bend it clear down here. Wonder what the ratio is. Start with the 170. Well, we're right there. I think that's gonna work more better. No go on the 170. She's a go on the 155. I'm gonna call that good. I ain't got a 160. So this here peanut butter is a very special kind of peanut butter. It is a thread sealer specifically designed for gasoline. There is a steel gasket and a paper gasket. I am choosing, well, aluminum. I'm choosing the aluminum gasket. The thread sealer is just extra protection. But I think what I ought also do is to put the spring and the filter in there. I happen to have some right here. I'm so caught up in my peanut butter. Why this won't allow you to put, let's get that little post thing hanging out there, because it wants to have that screen. It wants to have this. Well, this is without a doubt the only carburetor I have ever seen with that in there. And I'm thinking, because it's die cast, I'm just going to take that thing out of there. These are probably too big. Like that. Problem solved. Now what I need is for a bit of debris to be left behind. Get stuck in the seat. So why did it take you 12 hours to rebuild that carburetor? Well, you see, boss, it was like this. Finish the rest of the torque on the car. Wow, I think I'm done. Except for that vacuum hose. What became of the wee bit of vacuum hose it had? Look at it. Oh, one last thing. Click. Ready for install. Well, I gotta fix that choke linkage. Well. Ain't one thing, it's another. Uh-oh. Running out of memory. If I stop it, it won't start again. What am I looking for? Oh, that plunger. I don't want to put the plunger in yet. Alright, the book said 1.5 turns on the idle mixture screws. Okay, book said. Okay, so the spring that was on there. Okay, so the spring that was on there on the accelerator pump. My automatic transmission My automatic transmission rebuilding days were. Whoops, blocking your view, ain't I? Do that again. This goes toward the carburetor. So that means this is the top side. And the link for the secondary vacuum brake is on the top side. So it must go this way. Like that. No, I just did it wrong. I'm trying to watch the camera instead of looking at what I'm doing because I want to see what's going on in the viewfinder. Okay, so why such difficulty today? Why? I gotta go throw some rocks at some roosters. The double D is here. And of course my screwdriver is magnetic. But my clip tool is not. For these several choke positions. It is essentially a controlled vacuum leak. Gosh.